Hello, good morning, everyone, and good evening or good morning to those who are actually listening to a different time zone. My name is Marilyn. I'm the CEO and founder of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS. And CTS provides solutions to leaders and organizations to help them transform and thrive through continuous learning and relevant interventions by connecting them with the right world class resources to co create customized programs. And we have served companies such as Petronas, Sony, Shell, ProLife UK, Ayala Group, Tencent, Jollibee Foods, just to name a few. And what makes us different and reason why our clients choose us is because we are customers centric. We're very passionate with adding value to our customers, and at the same time, we provide unreserved attention and we are very responsive. Our experts have a well combination as well of practical and training experiences, which ensures outcome and impact for them. And today we're going to have an interview with John Pastor. John is actually the COO of GHL System Philippines, and he has close to 2 decades of leadership experience in the BPO contact center shared service industry in the Philippines, numerous years of exposure in both the captive and vendor areas of the industry. And he also had the opportunity to work with top tier multinational organizations since 2001. Aside from operation, he is also well versed in the different areas of businesses such as continuous improvement, P&L, quality sales and business development, workforce management, site or facility management, training, human resource and requirements. As I've had opportunity to either he had an opportunity rather to either oversee these areas directly and indirectly or collaborate with their respective department heads. He is a Six Sigma certified and have also gained credit and certification in the P&L management from Asian Institute Management. Furthermore, he has been certified for human-centered design thinking methodologies as well. So without so much further ado, I'd like to bring in and invite John to join me here.
Hi, Marilyn. Good morning.
Hi,
Good morning.
John.
Good
Good
evening.
morning.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks for having me today.
Yes, and it's our pleasure to have you. And we really appreciate your effort to be able to share your thoughts, your insight with those who are actually attending our or seeing our live program or
Of course.
interview.
Yes. Yeah. Hello to the
And,
viewers. Good morning. Good
yes,
evening to
and
everyone.
yes, and just to mention with you, this is really like I would say a passionate type of passion in leadership because he's actually
Yep.
here and he is on leave today. Thank you so much for that. And so before we start, I actually wanted to ensure that the listeners would know where are you coming from, why are you sharing these thoughts, and what's your perspective like. So please
Sure.
do share with us your leadership experience and influencers. So who actually influenced you when you were growing up? What your experiences and and what's even your leadership style, if you can share with us.
Sure. Try to make it short and compact. So, as you mentioned earlier, thank you very much, Marilyn, for the warm introduction. When I graduated from college way back in the 90s, I initially started in the sales industry. That's probably half of the 90s. But early 2000s, I discovered the BPO industry here in the Philippines. As you know, it's one of the top industries that we have here. We've already overtaken India as the number one BPO country in the world. So I guess my influence, because I stayed in the industry for about 20 years, that's 2 decades. Um, Most of my influence would come from the American style of running businesses because I've had pleasure of working for top-notch American institutions that have actually outsourced their business here to the Philippines. If you want me to name some of my, influential people in my career, I would probably name probably 3 to 4 people. Number one, I had a good boss in when I was with Convergys. His name's Renzi Ramirez. He's currently the country head of 24/7. I would also name Tina Stockdale, who was my boss during my stint with HSBC. Um, I would also probably name Ralph Brambles, who I had the pleasure of working with for close to 4 years when I was with Telstra. And my current CEO right now with JHL Systems Philippines, his name's Ray Chumacera. So I named those four because there's the commonality amongst them would be they're very good with running the business with the numbers. Obviously, if you're heading the business part of any organization here in the Philippines, you have to be very good with numbers. You have to be very process driven. You have to be very focused on the bottom line. But at the same time, there's the people side to the business. And I learned from them that at the end of the day, it's all about the people. You
Mm.
can't run an effective business if you don't have, motivated people working for you or working with you. So, in a nutshell, I would say ever since I journeyed in the BPO industry, and now currently I'm now in the payments and fintech industry. I've always, taken that approach wherein I do MBWA. I call it MBWA. It's management by walking around. So you need to be very proactive. You need to be very visible. You cannot, gone are the days wherein a leader or someone who's managing a team just sits around in his office and does emails and types up reports. So those days are long gone. So to thrive in this very fast-paced industry, you need to be very visible. You need to have a hands-on approach. So I guess that's in summary. That's how I would describe the leadership style or the approach that I've grown accustomed to and I keep using up until this very day.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And now we are actually aware on who are your inspiration. And at the same time, I like what you said when you mention about leaders nowadays has to be proactive, has to be
Yep,
visible, and has to be hands on.
correct. Yes.
Yes. And moving on to the next question. So, you've mentioned this, the skills that leader should be. I mean,
Mhm.
so what is leadership for you?
Well, for me, I equate it to I'm a very sports minded person. I like basketball. I like team based sports. So I always compare it to, let's say, if you're a coach of a basketball team. So that's how I
Mhm.
equate leadership to in terms of comparing it in the corporate world to the sporting world. So it's very
Mhm.
similar in a sense that as a coach, you are in charge of creating that culture. You need to create a coaching culture wherein feedback is welcomed. You praise people praise people who do a great job, and at the same time, there's the opposite side of the coin wherein you reprimand people, and obviously in private, in terms of areas for improvement. So it's a a fine balance of both. When you create that coaching culture, I think that's a start of creating a very positive corporate culture. Um, as a coach as well, you don't put everyone in a box and just run with your own style. I think it's very essential and imperative that you are able to personalize your approach, meaning to say you treat everyone as an individual. You don't look at it like, hey, this is my style. I'm going to do this for everyone. Nowadays, you manage so many people let's say during my time in the center industry, the biggest group I was able to manage was about 850 FTE. So that's huge. Direct reports probably about 10 to 12. So you cannot have that approach wherein you just have one management style and make everyone fit into your style. So you need to be able to adjust and be able to cater to everyone in terms of getting to know them individually, making sure that the coaching environment is there, wherein you know you already set expectations with everyone that, hey, we're gonna have a scheduled coaching every time, and then it doesn't stop there. It has to happen trickle down the line, right? So even the contact center agents need to be coached. Even if you're performing well, coaching needs to happen still. So that's how I would say leadership should be. You should be able to manage that kind of environment.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing with us. And like you've mentioned, it's important to be adaptable and flexible in terms of your leadership
Yes,
style, because there's no, one size fits all
exactly,
in
exactly.
that
Well
case,
said,
right?
Marilyn. Yes, definitely agree.
Yes, yes. So, how would you actually define and describe the next normal? We've
Mm,
gone through a lot during the COVID-19,
definitely,
and
yes.
so definitely, like you've mentioned, gone are the days when traditional leadership is still
Mm,
visible. Now you have to be more of a like proactive, visible, and hands-on, like what you've mentioned earlier. And so, if you were to manage, having said that, experience in the COVID-19, how would you then
mm.
describe and define next normal?
In terms of the next normal, I think, to be honest with you, Marilyn, what happened to us in 2020 really caught everyone by surprise.
Mhm.
And you know, unfortunately, those businesses that were not able to adjust on time, uh, they've either shut down their operations temporarily, or worst case is they've already permanently shut down their business.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, here in the Philippines, close to 3,300 small and medium businesses have already filed for bankruptcy, and they've
Mhm.
already shut down their operations. So
Mhm.
it's very sad, but at the same time, I think it's a wake up call for
True.
businesses to be able to adjust. Fortunately for us with GHL, I'm fortunate to be able to be in a business wherein we were classified as, you know, our products
Essential.
and services were classified as essential. So, more or less, in terms of revenue, we were not hit as badly as the other companies.
Mhm.
But to answer your question, I think in terms of the next normal, I think 2021 will still be the same, meaning to say we need to get used to having online conversations rather than face-to-face conversations. These meetings, which still need to happen,
Mhm.
whether these are internal meetings with your team members or whether these are external business reviews with your stakeholders and your clients, I definitely feel that the whole of 2021 will still use the online platform. I don't I don't see that we will go back to the norm before, wherein we would go out and go to different offices and meet with different clients. I don't think that's going to happen in 2021. In terms of the business model, I think
Mhm.
more of the businesses here in the Philippines have already moved to the online platform, and I think more will still happen this year. I think that's
Mhm.
the new norm for 2021, Marilyn.
Thank you so much for that. Again, like what you've said, online will stay and business model has to be reinvented.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Having said that,
If you want to
um,
survive, yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you on that. And thank you for sharing that. So, um, what then would you think, or will it take to navigate this crisis now that the traditional metrics assumptions are
Mm.
rendered as irrelevant, right?
Well, probably in some areas, I would agree with you. Yes, the traditional KPIs or metrics would be deemed as irrelevant. But again, fortunately for us, our KPIs and metrics remain the same in terms of service level and all that. I think it remains the same. I think what's key here for the company to survive is, let's say, one example, a service level agreement. Obviously, when you look at contracts that you have with your partners, different clients and corporate accounts, when you look at the contracts, there are service level agreements, and it wouldn't hurt for a business to be able to negotiate certain targets and objectives and goals with your respective accounts, and these companies would definitely understand. I think that's one way to be able to survive in this pandemic, is to be able to learn how to negotiate in terms of your service level agreements with your respective clients. Because if you use the normal targets and goals, definitely it's going to be very, very, very hard and challenging to pass your service level expectations. More than that, if you're lucky enough to be able to do that, I think internally with your respective teams, you need to be able to drive sense of urgency, sense of ownership, because again, um, it's not the normal BAU playing field that we are in right now. You need to be able to drive sense of urgency and sense of ownership, so that both your business and your partners will still succeed. Meaning to say, you won't, your efforts will still become relevant. You won't miss out on certain, let's say, targets that you need to achieve. Most of the, let's say with GHL, we also have penalty clauses with our clients, but they are, when you negotiate with them, they usually understand. But obviously, you cannot just remove the penalty clause, right? So you need to be able to drive the sense of urgency and ownership within your own internal teams, so that you can meet the targets. I think those are essential. Changing the mindset, especially here in the Philippines, wherein the culture is a little, sometimes, sad to say, it's a little laid back. So, me coming from the BPO industry, that's something that I've been trying to instill uh, with GHL, which is more of an Asian company. So having that sense of accountability, ownership mindset would definitely play a big factor in terms of how you run your business and meet your targets.
Yes, I totally agree with you in that. And so that's the reason why also in our upcoming summit we will have like a whole day to discuss about mindset,
Yes.
heart set, well-being, because it's, I mean, for you to be able to move on, to succeed, to be able to thrive, it's necessarily that you also have to change your mindset into a better
Yep.
mindset, into a growth mindset, into being a continuous learner, right? And like
Yep.
what you've said,
Agree.
accountability is really key, to
Yep.
have that ownership, because I think that's quite like common in most employees, especially. I
Yeah.
mean, not to put them down, but then of course they would, oh, this is not mine, or I'm just working here. So um,
Exactly. Yep.
they don't really take that ownership, which is important
Right.
in succeeding in either your career or your role or in your business, right? So
Right.
yeah.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
and so what do you think would be the most important, leadership capabilities, skills that you must have in the next normal to be able to continue to lead effectively?
What comes to mind would be two things. Number one, I think we already mentioned it earlier, being proactive. because in the Philippines, the tendency is we react to situations. Let's say we put out fires left and right. You know, we run like headless chickens because so many things are happening. I think we need to be proactive in terms of how we approach certain situations and problems, but most especially when it comes to dealing with your respective clients, with your accounts, with the partners that you are with. Um, you need to proactively inform them of what's happening. Let's say, like me, I'm in the service industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the expectation is, for example, this certain activity is finished within X number of days, but we are unable to do so, then part and parcel of my responsibility or of my team's responsibility as well is to inform our clients that, hey, you know, we are unable to meet a certain deadline because of so and so reason. Is it possible for us to adjust this? So I think that's the approach that everyone should have. Um, Let us not, make it happen wherein our clients will call our attention and, how come I was not informed that this certain deliverable will not happen? So I think that's a no-no for us to be able to thrive in this new normal. Aside from that, I think communication is key as well. I think it goes hand in hand, whether it's internal communications or external communications. I think it's very essential that you over communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we rely too heavily on emails.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's it's a bad thing, but in order for you to communicate proactively, sometimes it's better to pick up the phone and call that person so that you can better articulate, certain concerns, certain challenges, or certain updates rather than emailing, because sometimes emails would be, you know, it's not, the way you articulate yourself in email sometimes does not give the right impact or the correct, you know, translation to your recipient. So sometimes it's better to proactively pick up the phone and
Mm-hmm.
call, or have meetings via Zoom or StreamYard or
Yeah.
whatever
Yes.
platform you want to use, or Google Meet. I think that's very imperative.
True, true. I totally agree with you. In fact, you're joining us as well as a panelist on
Yes,
communication on day three of the summit, right?
correct. Very
So we
excited for that.
also look,
Thanks again for having
yes,
me.
yes, and we look forward to like learn more of your insights in terms of communication as key to be able to thrive in this next normal. So
Definitely.
for my next question, so what do you think or you believe is the role of leadership and transformation in thriving in the next normal?
Um, Very essential, role that they will play. Like in my case, since I run operations, and I've been running operations for quite some time. And given the current situation that we have with COVID-19 and this pandemic, and the lockdowns that we have and restrictions that we have in the Philippines, I need to control what I can control, right? And
Yes.
as the COO of the company, I need to be looking at our operating expenses.
Mhm,
So cost control is number one for me, aside from the usual customer service that we need to provide. We
mhm,
need to be able to sustain the business growth and sustain our customer capabilities, but at the same time we need to look at the costs and reduce costs as much as
mhm,
possible. In my side of the business, when I look at costs, because we are a service provider, I usually look at, you know, just to give you an example, Marilyn, let's say transportation costs,
mhm,
overtime costs. Those are very key elements wherein if you can reduce a certain percentage each month, it will definitely help the company in terms of the bottom line. So most of the companies now, we need to remain liquid, and we cannot rely on future businesses and future, let's say, partnerships. What we have currently, we need to maintain, and at the same time, from an operations perspective, you really need to look at reducing your costs and expenditures. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And lastly, before we end this interview, wow, so fast. We're already ending this interview. So this is gonna be my Miss Universe question
Okay.
for you. So if you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be and why? Please share more details with us.
Best, if I were to ask myself a question that I can best answer,
Yes.
how can you
What
be
would it
of more, I guess, how can you be more of value to your current organization? I think it's a very relevant question given the times. And the way I would answer it is, I will look at my current role. I will make sure that I will do the best and optimize that to the best of my abilities. But at the same time, I think we touched on this a little while earlier. Do not just look at your role as that's it. I mean, if you can expand it to be able to help out certain departments, certain groups, certain units, I think at the end of the day, if you're able to do that, then you've given 110% of your efforts to the company. Uh, Sometimes we limit ourselves and think of, this is just my role. At the end of the day, I mean, after I do this role, that's it. I clock out. That's it. I'll do the same thing again tomorrow. So it's very routinary for us. But for you to be able to thrive in your own organization, and for you to be able to, have that sense of fulfillment, I think you need to be able to, you know, help out certain groups, help out certain departments, correlate what your department does to the other departments, look at the outcomes and look at the outputs, and brainstorm with different leaders within your organization, so that maybe there are, let's say, processes that you can improve. There are certain, policies that you can implement, which will eventually help out the organization. And then, document that, involve the country head or the CEO, present your plan. I think, whoever your CEO is, he or she would definitely appreciate that kind of proactive approach, that kind of, initiative. So I think that's the best answer I can give to that question, Marilyn.
Thank you. Thank you so much to that. And again, like what you've mentioned, being able to be proactive and looking at ways to adding value and helping others within or outside of your organization, and of course to continuously look into ways to be able to improve processes within the organization.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely yes.
Yes, definitely. Those are keys to be able to, thrive in this next normal as well. So, yeah, is there anything more that you'd like to add before we end this interview? Anything that you'd like to share with us?
No, I mean, for all businesses out there, I guess just keep your head up and make sure that you are, you know, being proactive. You're doing things to the best of your abilities, and make sure that, again, when you are in the position wherein you need to update your clients, it's better to be proactive than reactive. So I guess that's uh, the tip that I can provide to everyone today. And I would like to thank you for having me today. Really uh, great discussion that we had this morning, and I'm looking forward to the workshop that's going to happen next month.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you taking time, even it's your off day today, even if
No
you're on
worries.
leave,
Yeah,
and
my
sharing with
pleasure.
us.
My pleasure.
You know, thank you for your all your insights and tips for our listeners. And again, we're also excited to have you in our upcoming summit. This is going to be from the 22nd to the 26th of February. And I just wanted to remind as well our viewers to do register now. They can see the link scrolling down. And the early bird is actually ending on the 31st of January, which gives free access to the standard tickets for them to be able to watch or get a recording of the whole 5 day event. And this will really cover a lot of, holistic ways to be able to thrive in this next normal. So again, thank you so much, Jan, for taking time
Thank you,
um,
Marilyn. Appreciate it.
to be here in the interview, and looking forward to see you
Yep.
again
See you soon.
in our summit. So thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye for now.